And welcome to this session. Just take a moment to get comfortable in whatever position you're in, because I want to, first of all, tell you what the theme of today is. I think it's appropriate at any time, and maybe with the times that we're in especially. And the theme is getting grounded. So we'll work with feet and toes and lower legs and those things that I really like to emphasize. Also, I came across a quote, and it's by Ram Dass, who is a lovely man who was very active in the 60s and 70s, kind of a pioneer in the psychedelic movement, experimenting on himself and letting people know about this kind of area that was unresearched at that point. And then along the way, he, in his spiritual awakening, he went to India and found a guru who he dedicated his life to. He passed away maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and was a very wise person. And this is what he had to say at one point in his life. He said, "I've been asked whether this is the Aquarian age and it's all beginning, or this is Armageddon and this is the end. I have to admit I don't know. Whichever way it goes, my work is always the same. My work is to quiet my mind and open my heart and relieve suffering wherever I find it." And I think that's a way that we can go through life and go through difficult times with the support of our spiritual practices. So with that in mind, let's take a seat on a cushion, and we're going to practice a lovely breathing exercise, which is bhramari, and it's bumblebee breathing. So I say take a comfortable seat. For me, that means I'm propped up a little bit on a cushion with my legs crossed. You can also be sitting in a chair for this. Rest your hands onto your legs, palms downwards, and then bring yourself into your upright but not uptight yoga posture. The spine lengthening right up to the crown of the head. And then at this point you might drop your gaze or close your eyes. The bumblebee breathing is a humming sound that we make, and it sounds like this. I'll just demonstrate. And it's as simple as that. We're going to do maybe 5 rounds of it, and you can pitch your humming sound low, medium, or high. I find if I have a higher pitch or a mid-range pitch, I can keep the breath going for a longer period of time. That encourages me to use my abdominal muscles too. So in a position where your shoulders are relaxed and your facial features soft, let's begin. Take a deep breath in, and on the exhalation, Just one more. Stay relaxed. And then just sit for a further moment and feel the effects of that vibration wherever you feel it. And we'll move on now to take a lying down position on your back, on your mat. Coming to that lying down position with your legs bent and your feet on the floor. And we could just continue that humming breath. I found it very calming. And in the lying down position, if you rest your hands across your abdomen, one hand below your navel, one hand above. And when you breathe in now and exhale, you might feel the tone through your abdomen with the humming breath. And then we'll finish with the humming breath. Just leave your arms by your side, and we'll work through a few movements for your spine, and starting with the bridge. So to move into the bridge pose, let's do a few pelvic tilts first, where you just rock on the back of your pelvis, where your sacrum is, and tilt the pelvis away from you, and then tuck it towards you. Think of a marble being on my abdomen, and starting at the pubic bone, it rolls towards my sternum, and then rolls away back towards the pubic bone again. And then we've got that one down pat, so let's add the bridge to it. And when you press your feet, you can start to lift up the pelvis away from the floor. And that's very much the tuck of the pelvis, isn't it? And then we're going to lower down. And it's a small bridge to start with. And by the time you reach the floor, you're tilting the pelvis. And then let's go through that again. Small bridge to start with. And in that spirit of grounding ourselves through the feet, feel more of the weight on the inside of your feet, on your big toe and your inner heel. That's going to keep you from turning your knees and your thighs out. And this time when you come down, just rest for a moment, consolidate. We're going to add something else to what you're doing. When you lift up your pelvis this time and come up into a gentle arching through your spine, lift your right heel. So a heel raise, right heel. And then bring it back down to ground. Your pelvis is still elevated. And then do the same thing with your left heel and lift up. And then replace your heel, keeping your pelvis up. Let's see what happens when you lift both heels. When I do that, I project myself more onto my shoulder and my neck, so lengthen the front of your thighs all the way to your knees. And then lower down, and the heels come down at the same time as your pelvis. Let's go again. hips up, bridging. Press your arms down, press your shoulders down. Lift your right heel, lift your left heel, both heels up. See if there's a little more scope, if you choose to lift your pelvis just that little bit higher. And then right heel down, left heel down, lower down, and you're articulating your spine slowly coming down all the way to your tailbone. Beautiful. Let's leave the bridge for right now and pay attention to our hamstrings. Bend your right knee into your chest. Extend the right leg up towards the ceiling. Support your right leg. Link your hands around the back of the thigh. And then get a little more of that hamstring stretch, pressing the back of your thigh into your hands. That has me straighten much more through the back of my knee. And then let's do some nice things for your feet and your ankles. And circle that right foot. Make it nice and smooth if you can. Although, to be honest, it's not quite a circle. Go the other way. Notice how you can use all of your foot, your toes, foot bones, ankle. Good. Pause and then turn your right foot in. So what do we call this? Inverting your foot. And then see if you can dip your big toe down a little bit. That gives me a really radical stretch on the outside of my right ankle. Maybe a stretch on the inside of my thigh as well. And then we're going to bring that foot back to ground. 2 feet in a line again. And then grab hold at the back of your left thigh and extend that leg up towards the ceiling. Press away into your hands. So you're doing a nice thing there with the back leg stretch, but also stimulating the quadricep at the front of the thigh. So from there, let's circle and see what the left foot is like in rotation. Mine likes to click on this side, and then the other way. There's always, it seems, a difference between the two sides in my body. And then let's see what that movement is like to turn your left foot to the left and give a really good stretch to the outer left ankle. Maybe you can dip down your big toe towards the floor. And then coming back front and center and 2 feet on the ground. We're going to roll over onto our left side. And your legs stay bent when you do this. Then come up, press your right hand down, come up onto your left forearm. I've got bent knees, my forearm resting on the floor, my palm resting on the floor, and I'm supported, well supported there. This is a strengthening exercise. So lift up the left ribs away from the floor as much as you can. So you've got kind of a C curve on that side. And then release down. Press your hand down, press your wrist down, press your elbow down. Lift those bottom ribs. And release them down. And third time, notice whether your core muscles are engaging to some extent here. I hope so. And then down. Let's add one level of challenge to this. Leave your right hand on top of your right hip, and then can you lift your ribs and your bottom hip away from the floor? And back down. And we'll do that for 2 more times as well. Make sure that you're still breathing. Where there's effort, you want to make sure you're not holding the breath. And up you come, and resting. We've done one side. Let's turn to rest on your right side, right hip. Legs are still bent. Right forearm. Leave your left hand on the top thigh. And then just do the first part of it. So simple lifting and lowering of the rib cage. In lateral movement, we don't do this movement very much in the course, everyday course of things. Good. And then let's see if we can go that next stage. And once again, it might be quite different than the other side. And lifting hips, lifting ribs, and lowering back down. Let's come up as much as we can. You might want to sit this out if the strength is lacking in that arm. And last one. And lowering down. And we're ready to move into all fours kneeling position. Once we set up on hands and knees here, most of us have been well trained in yoga, and there's an instinct to want to lift and lower the spine. So let's do that. Push away through your hands. Allow the spine to lift up towards the ceiling. Engage your core muscles for that. And then allow the spine to dip towards the floor, shoulders back. Lifting the upper spine, but then the lower spine with the help of your core muscles. Lifting up and releasing down. One more time. And get that release. Come to neutral spine and then bring your knees in closer. Bring your feet in closer. We're going to do one more movement, which is very much a flexibility and strengthening pose. Take your right leg back behind you. Tuck the right foot toes under. And then lean back. Your right foot's on the floor, toes tucked under, and lean back into your right leg. So you're folding at the top of the thighs in that hip fold and leaning back to get a really good calf muscle stretch. Let it go. Bring that knee in. Switch over. Left foot tucks under. The hips are still level. And then you push away through your hands and press back into your left heel. Good. And then back to all fours kneeling. Take a wrist rest break and come down onto your forearms. Flip your hands over and just open and close your hands a few times. And maybe waggle your fingers. Back onto all fours kneeling. Let's take this into a coordination training. So let's take right leg back, and we're still grounded through the right foot on the floor, but lift your left arm and extend it out parallel with your left shoulder. Then let's take the next step, engage your core muscles, lift your right leg away from the floor. And then replacing left hand, right knee. We're going really well here. Left leg comes back and your foot's still on the floor. Bring your right hand up and extend your right arm forward. You might be looking out in that direction forward. And then let's see how we go. Lifting your left leg this time. And right hand to the floor and left knee to the floor. And then separate your knees a little bit. Let your feet come closer together. And then ease back your buttocks towards your heels. This very much depends, this movement, on how much you can hinge at the hips, but also how much your knees will allow for that compressing movement. So you can go a little ways back and not completely. And then come forward. And while we're here, we might practice that hinge and drawing the buttocks back. Stop where you need to or go all the way. Keep your elbows up and you'll get a good shoulder stretch too. And coming forward. And one more time going back. We're going to exit this pose from dog pose. Coming forward for the last time, tuck your toes under. Lift your knees, lift your hips. We're not staying there. Oh, why not? Let's walk the dog. So take a few heel presses, alternating. One leg bends, then straightens, and the other leg bends, and back and forth. And we get that nice sashaying movement from the bases of your spine. All right, and then pausing and take a step forward, take a step back with your hands, and come up. Nice and easy does it, and all the way to standing. We're going to do a couple of balancing poses in I think almost every session that I present. I try to do a mixture of strengthening, balancing, coordination, and within that theme of groundedness, we're going to do some one-legged balancing. So first of all, find a wall space, a clear wall space, and bring yourself back side to the wall. Step your feet out about 35 centimeters away from the wall with your feet separated. The wall is a nice truth teller about your posture. So can you have your sacrum, your shoulders, the back of your head to the wall comfortably? And that makes us in very good posture. Leave your arms loose by your side. Look at your feet, lift your toes and spread them, and then bring them back down to ground with that extension. Press on the big toe base on your inside heel. Start to bend your knees and create a wall slide. And stop at the point where you still have a wide angle behind your knees, an obtuse angle, we call it. And then from here, notice, do you have your weight on your toes, your forefoot, or your heels? Let's experiment. Transfer your weight to your heels and feel where that engages your muscles. I feel that very much more in my hamstrings. Shift your weight to your forefoot as though you're trying to lift your heels, and notice where you feel that in the muscles of your body. And then let's push away and come up. I didn't realize we were staying there for quite a while. And we still have to do it again. So take your wall slide. Your backside stays in contact with the wall as much as possible. Tips of the shoulders back. You might want to come down a little bit lower to be more challenged until there's pretty much a right angle behind your knees. And that's good. And then from there, let's try this one with your arms up. Can you reach for the ceiling and maybe even reach back a little bit? I'm very flexible in my shoulders, so my thumbs touch the wall, maybe my index finger. Don't force it though. And then sliding up and lowering your arms. And I know I was talking a lot, but I hope we didn't stay too long for you. We're going to do one more while we're here though. So move in closer to the wall, be about a foot away from the wall, and bring your feet together. Still going to have support through the back of our body, very much so. And then we're shifting as promised. I said we're going to do some one-legged balance. Our weight onto your left foot. Lift up your right foot and place the sole of your right foot onto the wall. So now, right foot pressing into the wall, left foot pushing into the ground. We're going to leave the wall all in one piece, head, shoulders, and buttocks move away from the wall. And then in the same manner, all of one piece, we're going to go back to the wall. Push away. Notice if your shoulders are tightening up with the effort. You can keep them relatively relaxed. We're going to do 3 of these all together. Another thing is, are you gripping with your toes? See if you can still keep your weight through the forefoot and the heel. And then happily lowering down and standing on your own 2 feet. Pause for a moment, and then let's switch and see what it's like on this side. And your left foot's onto the wall, a little below your buttock, and your right leg is the one you're going to depend on for balance. So pressing into your right foot, pressing into your wall foot, move away from the wall. And then you start to fold at the hips, a really small fold at the hips to return to the wall and moving away. Feel weight on that wall foot as you push away and support as you come back. And third time, and back. Such a simple but really effective exercise. And 2 feet on the ground. So take a little walk around and shake out your feet, shake out your legs. Let's do one more balancing pose. And this will be a timing for you. And remember, when we do timings like this, they're just a measurement. They don't really mean anything. So we're going to have the timing be about 30 seconds, but they give you a baseline about how your balance is going. So standing near to the wall, you might need it. Then let's say we balance on our right foot and right leg and lift the left heel and then lift off, and I'll begin the timing. And coming back down to ground. And ready to start on the other side. And balancing on your left foot, left leg. Raise your right knee. Here we go. And 2 feet on the ground. And we'll leave it at that. That was 30-second timing. If you have the opportunity, it's a really great balancing pose. So simple, so safe when you're next to the wall. And you can build up your timing and then add elements like turning your head to one side and then the other on your one-legged stance. Or even closing your eyes, ultimately. Building up time as well. All right, let's do downward facing dog pose in a kind of novel way. I'm going to use the wall again to have my heels on the wall. So start with your backside to the wall. Take a kneeling position. Balance your weight onto your hands. Lift up into your dog pose, but bring your feet right back to the wall so they'll be perpendicular to the floor.
So my toes tuck under, my heels are elevated. When I look at my feet, they're almost vertical. And then, as in dog pose, moving my hips back, stretching back through my shoulders. Keep your weight on the inside of your feet, that's towards the base of your big toe. And then come down halfway towards the floor. If you have tight Achilles, or really tight in the backs of your legs, having this support can be a good way to do dog pose. And then stretch the hips up and back. And then finally, bring your heels down so they're just at the skirting board. Roll your weight in towards the big toe. Feel your weight very much on the inside heel. And then tailbone up, ribs to hips, hips towards the ceiling. Take a break now, and as you kneel down, fold your arms, fold your hands, maybe rest your head onto your folded hands. And we'll move into one of the standing poses, a preparation for it. Come up to standing. And if you have a yoga block there, that could be handy for this. Not absolutely necessary. I'm facing the wall now, and I'm going to step up my right foot onto the top of the skirting board. That gives me a really good toe stretch and reminds me to keep my weight towards the inside of my foot. The block goes as I bend my right knee towards the wall, in between my right knee and the wall. And I've got it on the mid-range. I can step my left leg back a little bit further because I want to get a good stretch on the back line of my left leg. Hands rest onto the wall to keep you balanced and your chest up. And then, as much as you can, stretch through the back of your left leg using your left glute, your left buttock muscle. Maybe tiptoe your fingers a little farther up the wall. So we're challenging that sense of groundedness by being asymmetrical in our stance and also a little bit off balance on your feet. So you have to find your own balance. And then we're ready to swap sides. Take the right leg back, the left foot forward. Rest the toes at the top of the skirting board. How far apart are your feet? Maybe a little bit less than a meter. And then take up the block if you're using it between your knee and the wall. This is to save you from over-compressing your knee. And then let's work to bring weight on the inside of your left foot, big toe, inner heel. And then work the back leg, stretch behind your right knee all the way to your Achilles. Lift your chest high. That right buttock is very strong onto the hip bone. Take your hands a little bit higher. And then let's release from that warrior one preparation and take it as a freestanding pose. So facing the short end of your mat, step your right foot forward and your left foot back. Get your balance there, and there's a space between the tops of your thighs. Roll in a little bit on the right foot. Roll out a little bit on the left foot. Keep the arches of both feet lifted, and as much as you can, settle into your hips, your legs, and your feet. Bend your right leg at the same time as you bring your arms up into goal post position. Your palms are facing forward, And then imagine that the backs of the hands and the elbows in the same plane as though they were pressing against a glass wall behind you or a glass slider. And then lower your arms, straighten that front leg. Gracefully, gently step up, left foot to right foot, and right foot back. Good. Standing on your own 2 feet, but they're separated. Find your balance on the inside of your left foot, the outside of your right foot. And then here we go to the bent leg position. Knee bends over your left ankle. Arms come up. The backs of your forearms and your hands pressing back. Feel your upper back strong. And then in an exhalation, lower your arms, straighten your legs, and step all the way forward. Well done. Let's move on to a little vinyasa, so combining 2 movements, right foot forward, left foot back. And that combination of the 2 movements means that you're a little more challenged in your balance. So this part we've done. The arms come up, you bend the front leg. Good. Let's see what it's like. Allow your arms to be like a wide V position with your elbows straight. And reach for the ceiling. Plug your fingers into the ceiling. Feel into your back leg. That left glute is strong. And then if you can balance well here, tilt your chin up, look up. And then lowering your chin again. We're going to take a dive forward. Palms are facing forward. Straighten the front leg. Hinge from the top of that right leg and come into a forward bend. As you do that, we want to make the hips symmetrical again. So bring the outside of your left hip forward and draw the right hip back. Reaching down, reaching your chest forward at the same time. Good. Strong right foot, press it on the inside, and then you're going to bend your knee as you come up back to warrior 1 and arms bent 2. And lower your arms, straighten your legs. Step all the way forward. Right foot back. Take a moment, consolidate. We don't want to move too fast because you want to give a little bit of space to feeling the results of what you did on that side. And then from here, we go warrior 1. We've marked this territory. We know how to do that. And we're doing the version with the arms straight up and reaching from the center of your sternum, from the heart space, and looking up. And then chin level with the ground again, straightening the left leg, bring the arms forward and down. So I'm resting my hands onto my shin bone. So this very much depends on your flexibility. You might go all the way to the floor or rest your hands onto a block. Pause there, adjust your hips. The outer left hip comes back, the right hip rolls forward a bit. Pin down the inside of your left foot, the outside of your right foot. We're coming to warrior 1. Press your feet, bend your elbows. Exhale, arms down, straight front leg, a big step forward. And maybe shake out your feet a bit. And your legs, and your shoulders, and your arms, and your hands, even your head. Lovely. Let's do one more in that spirit of balancing. Come to the wall, and we'll do the preparation for warrior 3 pose. Standing face to the wall, bring your hands. You could have your hands flat against the wall. They're kind of in line with your shoulders or your upper ribs. or you can have your fingertips onto the wall. I'm going to keep my fingertips on the wall to challenge me a little bit more. And then step back. And we're going to fold at that hip crease and bring the buttocks back and finish up with the trunk being pretty much parallel with the floor. Your feet are all the way together this time. Arms straightening, push away. And then lift your tailbone a little bit. Plant that left foot down. Lift your right heel. And then slowly bring your right leg behind you. Keep your weight on the inside of the standing leg, on your supporting leg, and keep the hips compact. That outer left hip pulling into the body. Flex your right foot, push away, and then coming back down to ground. Flex your left knee, 2 feet together. Lift up your chest. We're going to get all set up for side 2. Hinge from your hips. Send your hips back and balance your weight onto your right foot. Once again, there might be some real difference between the two sides in strength or in symmetry. Lift your left leg and flex your foot and push away through the sole of your left foot. Keep your right hip well into your body. And then bend your right knee, lower that leg, come all the way in and up. Okay, good strengthening work for hips and leg muscles. In the same vein, but a little different, another way that we can strengthen these areas that I'm talking about is with another Warrior 3 preparation. So facing the short end of your mat again, step right foot forward, step left foot back. Now, this is a short stance. So when you take your left foot back, it's less than a meter behind you. It's just a little step back, and that's enough. Bring your hands onto the tops of your thighs, the bottom of your torso, and do your hip hinge as you press into your right foot. Press more on the base of the right foot big toe and the inner heel. That foot is fully grounded that way. And then from your hip hinge, only bringing your trunk in on a straight angle, reach your hands down onto the front of your right leg. Then lift your left heel and only imagine that you're going to lift your left foot. And as that heel comes up, it's as though the forefoot, left foot, is glued to the floor. You can't really lift it up, but you really are trying mightily to do that. And then let go of that effort. Bend your front knee. Inhale and come up. Step up. Step right foot back. A little step. I think I overdid it. Starting from upright position, bend at the hips. Your trunk will come down as far as that hip hinge will allow, but keep it in one line. If you had a dowel, it would rest on your head, your shoulders, and your sacrum all in one line. Take hold of your front leg. Lift your back heel. Lift your tailbone. Keep strong through your left foot, that's your supporting foot, as you attempt to lift your right foot away from the floor. But it's got Velcro under, and it can't be lifted. And then release. My legs were really working on that one. And step up and give your feet and your legs a little shake out. It will be really nice at this point to have a seat. That's what's next for us. except for the last standing pose. So, Prasarita Padattanasana is deemed a relaxing standing pose, but we'll see what you think. Grab your yoga block, step your feet out wide on your mat, and this time you're facing the long end of your mat. Bring your heels back to the back edge, and if you're going to use the block, then place it in front of you on the high end. But initially, we're just standing on our own 2 feet, but they're in a wide stance. Hands onto your hips, and then roll your feet a little bit. So rolling in, rolling out, going through the potential for movement through your toe bones, your foot bones, your heel bone. And then pause. Have your feet a little pigeon-toed. Spread your toes. Your big toe stays facing inwards, and all the other toes fan out towards the little toe. Then bring your hands to the tops of your thighs. Take a bow forward. You're sending your buttocks back at the moment, but can you shift your balance to your forefoot so your buttocks start to come forward a little bit again, and then lift your tailbone. If you've got a block there, place your heels of your hands onto the block. If you're without a block, then just hold your legs. Then straighten through your elbow joint, pump up your chest, and lead with your breastbone to stretch forward. Tailbone up. Strengthen your legs, push away through your feet. When you were in all fours kneeling, you were pushing away through your hands. Now push away through your feet and hike the backs of your legs up towards the ceiling. Stay very much grounded and divide your weight between your heel bone, your forefoot, and your toes. And then deliberately here and very slowly lift your heels, bring them closer in. Lift your toes, turn your toes in, and we're going heel, toe, so that we can arrive back in the middle and come all the way up. And now, that very much anticipated sitting on a bolster or a folded blanket. Legs straight out in front of you for Dandasana. Sitting tall, sitting pretty. Look at your feet, flex your feet, and lengthen out from your Achilles to your heels. Bring your hands onto your support, onto the blanket or your bolster. Press down through the hands, and then lengthen that lateral body that we worked with in the strengthening pose in the beginning of the session. Draw up through the side ribs to the armpits. Push out through the heels. And it is nice to be seated again. And then from there, take one leg out to the side, second leg out to the side, and we're in a version of the open splits. I was advised by one of my students yesterday in class that she, as a gymnast and also a circus performer, they called this the straddle pose. In yoga, it's Upavista Konasana. Flex your feet, extend out through the soles of your feet. Imagine that once again you've got a sense of being grounded through your feet, even though they're not on the ground. And then tilt forward from your hip fold. Walk your hands out. The more I come forward, the more I feel the stretch on my inner knees and my groins. So we want to be temperate in how we do that, not go too fast and too hard. But nevertheless, it is a good stretch. and tiptoeing the hands possibly a little further forward. Stretching behind your knees all the way to the heel bone and bringing the inner knees a little closer to the floor. Step back with your hands, grab the inside of your knees, lift up, plant your 2 feet on the floor in front of you, and wrap your arms around the front of your shins and sit tall again. Sit pretty. And we come to Baddha Konasana and simply letting your knees drop out to the side. And then seat yourself so that you're right on your sitting bones. It's easy to slide off a blanket or a bolster. You want to be propped up with the front edges of your sitting bones supported. Bring your hands around your ankles on the outside, and then pull a little bit to get that length of your spine again. Base of your spine, crown of your head. And stretch your knees out. And then play with this a little bit and tilt your weight towards your little toe side of your foot. Lift your heels. Lift your heels, stretch the inner thighs. Do that in reverse. And lift your toes away from the floor. Keep your feet together. And your weights onto your heels. Good. We're going to release just the right leg forward. Left leg stays bent. Move your foot out a little ways away from you. And then with your hand in a loose fist, just tap, 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 tap. This is a kind of reward for your feet being so loyally supportive. Tops of your toes, bottoms of your toes, heel bone. And then extend your left leg forward and right leg bent in. Good. And same thing again. Just knuckle tap onto your toes, the backs of them, the fronts of them. Maybe come up your calf muscle on the inside, your shin bone, and then both legs straight out in front of you. Separate your feet and waggle them. There's no right way to do this, so you just shake them out a little bit. Shake your legs out a little bit. Beautiful. And we're going to take a kneeling position. Let me preface that by saying it's not everybody's cup of tea, kneeling. You can get to a certain point of age and body where it doesn't come very easily to kneel. And we're going to do that as a seated kneeling position. So I have my bolster here, and if I straddle my bolster with my legs on either side of it, there's not so much compression of my knees. But that's an individual thing. I could still take more height using a folded blanket and a bolster, or sitting on a block and a bolster. It's a little harder to balance because you've got all those soft props underneath you. Nevertheless, there's a nice big gap behind my knees now. So what about your feet? The feet on the outside of the bolster or outside of your hips. Hold your heels and press the tops of your feet and the bottom of your shin bones down. After all that dorsiflexion of your feet and the importance of that for your ankles, now you're giving them a stretch. And transfer your weight, if you can, to the little toe side of your foot this time, and splay your heels. Heels are wider, the weight's on the outside of your feet, and sitting tall, sitting pretty. Interlock your hands, turn your palms inside out, stretch up, And then push away through the center of your palms. Get a good knuckle stretch. Bring your elbows in, the crown of your head up, and your front ribs down. Lower your hands just to chest height. Change to the other interlock. Press forward. The more you straighten your elbows, the more wrist stretch you're getting too, or wrist flexion, I should say. And then keep the elbows straightening. Can you lift from the outside of your shoulder blades as though the arms started at the bottom of the shoulder blades? And soften the diaphragm ribs. Lower your hands to chest height. Release your hands. Give those a good shake out. Little finger side of your hand too. And then happily extend out your legs. In the seated position, there you are. And we're ready to do an inversion pose in a lying down on your back position. So make space on your mat and have a yoga block and your belt. If you don't have these dedicated yoga props, you could use a nice thick book underneath your sacrum. And I've got my yoga strap next to me, and that's going to be useful in a moment. When you are on your back, you're in looking like your approach to the bridge pose, your legs bent and your feet on the floor near to your buttocks. Take up your block and slip it underneath your sacrum. I like to keep the block on the lowest end, so it gives me a very firm support. So the sacrum supported onto the block. And at this point, I can bring my legs in, feet off the floor, thighs towards your chest, and then take up your strap or whatever you're using like that and bring it across the tops of your feet. Tops of your feet meaning the forefoot. So not so much the arch of your foot. And then there's work to do here. I'm holding my strap or the yoga belt, two-hand grip with my shoulders on the floor. And the bit of work here is to lift up through the forefoot, through the pads of the toes, and that's going to straighten your legs again. You could, if you were very flexible, bring your legs overhead. Rather than that, and if you're not flexible, then it's not really a worry, you can also have your legs bent a little bit and move your tailbone away from you. So it's just a slight bend. But in any case, your legs are directly above your hip sockets and stretching up. All right, now let's see how we go. Widen your feet. I've got about a 2-meter belt, so I can have my legs fairly wide. And as you press, so you got a firm grip on the belt, as you press upwards into the belt, outwards to the sides, I'm going to feel that much more through my inner leg stretch. Move your tailbone away from you. And then come back to legs straight up and together. And let's see what it's like just to hold the legs in that configuration without the belt, without the help of the support. Arms down by your side. Flex your feet. Have them in a position like you'd be doing one of your standing poses. So the heel at the same level as the balls of the feet. Still keep moving your tailbone away from you. We want to preserve that natural curve of the lumbar spine. All right, let's ease off. You did a lot of work with your legs, so bringing yourself to a bent knee position. Cup your hands around the front of your knees or just below your knees. Even here, maybe separate your knees a little bit, separate your feet a little bit. Turn your thighs in and move your coccyx, the base of your spine, away from you. And then we're coming to ground and 2 feet on the ground. Take the support away and rest your hands across the navel center. And in a moment, we're going to set up well for the yoga relaxation. And for that, I recommend a few more props. If you can, a rolled blanket or a bolster underneath the backs of your knees. A 3-fold or a 2-fold blanket for supporting the back of your head. And an eye covering. Or any other props that help you relax in the most comfortable way. This is your time. I have an eye bag to cover my eyes, but you might just have a soft scarf or something like that. I've even seen people use their yoga straps over their eyes, although that doesn't look very comfortable to me. So, we did all that work which was towards being grounded through our feet. And now what you might think about is, and we'll move from the bottom of your body upwards, is that base. Spread your toes. Open the spacing between your toes. Keep them stretched out as much as you can with that space between them. And then release any tension there. And then they go back and they find their own level. Separate your heels if you haven't done that. And have the arches of the feet relax, the inner arches in particular. So that the feet start to relax, the ankles, the inner thighs, and the inseam of your leg, that line from your inner ankle, inner knee, up through the inner thighs, the groins recede and relax. And I'm going to start my savasana or my yoga relaxation with eyes covered with this eye bag, and rest my hands onto my belly. So when the hands cross over the belly like this, they just cue that area to let go a little bit more. Feel the abdominal wall and the muscles of the pelvis slackening and releasing any gripping. Feel the buttocks soft and wide on the floor, and the support that the back of the pelvis and the buttocks give for the release at the front of the body. Soften your diaphragm just above the upper abdomen. And find the favored place for your arms out to the side. Or just leave them resting on your abdomen. In the same way that you relaxed your toes, open and close your hands a few times, and then let your fingers relax and find their own levels. Soften the very center of your palms. So it feels like there's a soft cup there in your hands, as though you were ready to receive whatever there is for you in the moment. And finally, relax and soften your facial features. So whatever your characteristic expression is, maybe you could think of the image of an inner smile. So from the outside, nothing might change, but then there's that sense and feeling, a smile of welcoming yourself into your physical body. And as I was saying, into anything that is here in the moment for you. You're okay with all of it. Let your lower jaw slacken back and relax, and let your tongue rest on the bottom of your mouth, wide and soft. Swallow lightly, releasing the vocal cords. They were stimulated by the humming sound, and now we want them to relax. The walls of the throat soft. From your head to your hands and your feet, totally supported and letting go. Begin to acclimate yourself to the room that you're in, acknowledging any sounds around you or farther away. And then to help you reemerge, allow your breath pattern to deepen. And think about it before you actually move a muscle. Just you're going to roll over onto your side and stay there. Indulge yourself in a few more moments of quiet and rest. When you're ready to move, bend up your legs and rest side lying, fetal position. And as you're ready, come up to have a seat once more. And once seated and in a comfortable seat, bring your hands up and place them in prayer position in front of your chest. Stay very much in your own space and feel your breath. And we end these sessions in the very traditional way, the ritual of joining hands. And really for me, that means joining hearts. And thanking you very much for practicing with me. Namaste.